Cheryl for that beautiful introduction and for making me the happiest man alive with the most unbelievable wife. I want to thank the other members of my family who are here, particularly Amaryllis, who's done such a great job co-managing the campaign, and my son Bobby and Jackie and Becky and Anthony Shriver and Carolina and Eunice and Jesse Shriver and the other members of my family are here. Cheryl is a huge, huge football fan. And the real reason we came to Philadelphia is to watch the Eagles play yesterday. I want to thank also Louis Grassrope for giving the invocation today. Louis, as he said, is a tribal elder of the Lower Brule Sioux, the Lakota people in South Dakota. My father, about a week.
So what we're watching there is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announcing a run as an independent candidate, leaving the Democratic Party. He hasn't literally said those words yet. I think we'll bring him back on screen when that happens. He's doing some introduction, thanking some people. His wife was just speaking, but he is running as an independent outside the Democratic Party. Something we were waiting for this is, I think, kind of expectation that this would be the move he would make, was building over the last couple weeks, but here it is.
Yeah, so there is some recent reporting from Semaphore, and we talked about some of this polling evidence last week that suggests that RFK Jr. might in fact take more votes away from Donald Trump than from Joe Biden. And that poll suggested that if someone is to run as an independent, they have a huge polling advantage over someone who runs as a Libertarian or a Green Party member. And that's some of the speculation as to why Cornel West also has chosen to no longer affiliate himself with the Green Party. But on top of all of that, perhaps because of that polling information, there's some new reporting out of Semaphore that suggests that Trump's team is getting anxious about what it means for RFK Jr. to be making this announcement. This article, updated a few days ago by Shelby Talcott, is titled "Team Trump Readies Attacks on RFK Jr. as Spoiler Anxiety Grows." I haven't had a chance to talk about this with you yet, Robbie. What do you make of this choice?
Boo-hoo. I mean, I say that to both major party candidates, all major party candidates. I don't care about the spoiler effect at all. If you want to win these voters, you can have less bad ideas. So I wasn't losing any sleep over the fact that maybe RFK Jr. was going to draw, if he ran as a general election candidate, was going to draw support from Joe Biden. Same thing is Trump. Honestly, in reality, I bet he's going to pull voters from both camps, and he's going to pull voters who wouldn't have voted, who would not vote for anyone except for RFK Jr. So everybody should temper their panic that he's going to cause their candidate to lose, as is generally the case. That way too much has been made about Jill Stein and Gary Johnson, Green Party, Libertarian Party, spoiler effect. So it remains to be seen. But it is clear that he's speaking to issues that are of concern on COVID, et cetera, to some right-wing people. So I'm sure some people who might have voted for Trump could be interested in voting for him as well, if that's a big enough effect to sabotage Trump or Biden. It remains to be seen.
Well, it looks like we're getting into the core of RFK Jr.'s announcement, so let's go back over to him.
Tens of millions of people who live paycheck to paycheck in financial desperation. The dispossessed also include the legions of the chronically ill, of the addicted, the depressed, the 80% of our country that cannot afford a middle-class lifestyle. A rising tide of discontent is now swamping our country. There's danger in this discontent, but there's also opportunity and promise. The danger is that the demagogues will hijack it toward fascism, or that our rulers will divert us to use it as a pretense for an attack on an existential enemy, another in the long pipelines of continuous wars. The biggest danger that we've all seen on a day-to-day basis is that they'll direct that discontent against each other. As Abraham Lincoln observed, quoting Jesus Christ, "A house divided cannot stand." A polarized nation is easy for corrupt powers to manipulate and to control, and to strip the wealth, its freedoms, its equity, its dignity. Those are the dangers. So what is the promise? The promise is a reunion. We are told today that our nation is hopelessly divided. But I found something different as I travel this country. The most hateful voices, of course, are always the loudest. But there are a lot of quiet Americans who are looking at disgust at the vitriol, the name-calling, and the venom. They want it to end. They want us to get along. They want to end. And you know, those loud, hateful conjuring.
So it's interesting that this is happening with the backdrop of this escalation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the attacks, the deaths in Israel, and then also in Palestine. RFK Jr. has made a name for himself so far as an anti-interventionist candidate, speaking very eloquently about the Russia-Ukraine conflict and how the U.S. has escalated it and should not be funding the Ukrainian effort. This is something that has made him, I think, not so appealing of a candidate to your kind of standard liberal Democrat, but certainly an appealing candidate to many on the right, the dissident right, for whom opposition to funding Ukraine has become a big issue. And he was getting a lot of pickup there, and that's why some of the Trump people are worried about his entry. However, as has emerged when he's been questioned by you and others for his views on Israel, he's been very full-throated in his desire for the U.S. to support Israel, to maintain that what he views as a very important relationship. And he has said that that the U.S. should continue and increase aid to Israel in light of what's going on, something that has estranged him from the Libertarian Party, which previously had tweeted or spoke out a lot of support for the things he was saying about interventions in general and about COVID and vaccine requirements. He has been stridently criticized by the Libertarian Party for this. He has some stances that I would describe as not libertarian, so it was going to be interesting to see if the party would be willing to overlook those and say, but here's a well-known person we can attach our name to who is speaking to at least some of our issues. This is definitely this sounds like this is a bridge too far, so he's going to be running here as an independent, not as a libertarian.
Yeah, I do think that there was some question as to whether or not this announcement was going to be an announcement that he was in fact joining the Libertarian Party, right up to, I think, this tweet that came out over the weekend from the Libertarian Party's Twitter account in response to RFK Jr.'s statement on Israel-Palestine. The Libertarian Party tweeted out, "We are the only ones who are actually anti-war in every context, not just when it's convenient. All of the disenfranchised anti-war supporters of Robert Kennedy Jr. are welcome in the Libertarian Party." So making a pretty definitive break there with RFK Jr.'s candidacy on what I think is a really core motivating issue for a lot of voters.
Right. I mean, you have to be consistently anti-intervention, or what's the point? I mean, so many. This is the problem with our two-party duopoly, our major parties. Both are inconsistently anti-intervention and have been for forever. Condemning one thing that the U.S. government is doing, perhaps under the influence of the other party, but then having your own desire to project, American influence when your side's in power, or just, in different conflicts, Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, etc. What so many Americans want is a principled and consistent anti-interventionist perspective, which doesn't mean that we totally turn a blind eye to atrocities going on over the world, or that we can never speak out against them or work to counteract them, but that we have to have a sense of humility about what the American foreign policy over the last several decades has achieved, the reality that we cannot be the world police, we cannot intervene every time something goes wrong anywhere in the world, and that a lot of what we have done has invited hostility and dislike and distrust of America. And I think the people are clear-eyed about that in a way their political leaders have not been. So I was very glad to see the Libertarian Party, of which, of course, I am a member, of often voting for our candidate, to come out and say that.
Yeah, let's get back to a little bit more of RFK Jr.'s remarks.
And I've read stories to children who are devastated by chronic disease. it can all look pretty dark. We seem to be cycling from despair to rage and back to despair again. The country is sitting on top now of a powder keg. Americans are angry at being left out, left behind, swindled, cheated, and belittled by a smug elite that has rigged the system in its favor. But I've also seen hope. I've traveled millions of American miles across my career. And to quote Tennyson, I am part of all whom I have met. For 40 years, Americans across the country have fortified me with their courage and their idealism. But this year, I have witnessed an upwelling of optimism that I've never seen before. And optimism isn't the same thing as denial. We have to acknowledge the truth. We do face a decaying infrastructure and record levels of suicide, depression, addiction, chronic disease. We do face an entrenched political corruption and an inequality of wealth not seen in a century. But the good news is that people like yourselves are finally fed up. Something is stirring in us that says it doesn't have to be this way. People stop me everywhere at airports, at hotels and malls, on the street, and they remind me that this country is ready for a history-making change. They are ready to reclaim their freedom, their independence. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to declare myself an independent candidate. Independent candidate for President of the United States. That's not all. I'm here to join you in making a new Declaration of Independence for our entire nation. We declare independence from the
Well, we will be updating you more on this tomorrow, of course, and that does it for us for today. It was really great to be back at the desk. Brianna and I will be here tomorrow. No more long vacations for me, probably in the rest of my lifetime, but I do appreciate everyone who filled in while I was in Rome and some other places. Obviously, a lot going on in the news. We'll definitely have more discussion of, more expert commentary on the Israeli-Palestinian situation and everything else.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. For those of you who prefer to listen while you're on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.